Welcome back. For the first time, a whistleblower who warned our government about the terrorist attack in Benghazi is breaking his silence. He claims the U.S. government did not take this threat seriously.
The people that go out onto the edge to represent our country, we believe that if we get in trouble, they're coming to get us. That our back is covered. To hear that it's not, it's a terrible, terrible experience.
Indeed. 4 Americans, of course, died that night. Aren't their families entitled to some answers? Because so far we haven't gotten many. Joining us right now from South Carolina is Senator Lindsey Graham, member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator, it's interesting, in that particular report on 60 Minutes last night, Greg Hicks, who was a deputy there in Libya at the time that the ambassador was killed, he was talking about at one point how he was in the process of making his 3rd request for additional security, but nothing ever happened with that. What can you tell us about that?
I know that Greg had a very specific request for security upgrades in Tripoli, not Benghazi, because of a very well-known terrorist in the area, and his request was spiked, not allowed to go up to Washington. There had been 4 to 5 additional security requests for Benghazi and Tripoli that were denied by personnel in Washington, D.C. But we need to know why his request was never allowed to go to Washington, and we need to know the person who said he couldn't send it. That's classified. It shouldn't be classified. Much of the information about Benghazi is classified, I think, for political reasons more than anything else.
Sure. Also, last night we learned that 3 months before, an official had told Ambassador Stevens, one of the guys on the ground, you're going to be attacked. Somebody else said, there's the ambassador who died, our first ambassador killed overseas in 30 years. We also heard one guy say, look, I said this is going to follow Al-Qaeda's pattern. We've already heard they promised they would hit the Red Cross, which they did. They promised they would hit the United Kingdom, which they did. They promised they would hit the United States. You're next. And somebody told Washington a number of times, and nothing. Those people died.
Well, why was Chris Stevens going to Benghazi in light of all this information? And how could someone in Washington, given the level of threat that was being reported continuously by Chris himself, not approve additional security requests? How did the consulate become a death trap? And now we know that this was a result of a pre-planned Al-Qaeda attack with some very high-level operatives involved in leading the attack. It was never a protest as a result of a video gone bad. The 4 Americans were murdered by Al-Qaeda in a pre-planned coordinated terrorist attack. And how could the administration for 2 weeks or longer tell us that was not so?
I think it's great that mainstream media finally catching up. CBS did this story on Benghazi, and I see criticism from the left where they go, you guys are covering a phony scandal. 60 Minutes doesn't cover phony scandals. But, Senator, here's what I thought was the glaring omission, and that was, in the entire 15-minute story, not one word about Hillary Rodham Clinton.
I think the story was about the fact that our folks died in a different way than explained by the administration. They died as a result of an Al-Qaeda planned attack that you could see coming. They talked about security requests being denied, and that leads to what to do next. If we don't have a joint select committee to get out of this stovepiping problem, we're never going to get the truth. The Congress should form a committee. The State Department is blaming the CIA. The CIA is blaming the State Department. Where was the Department of Defense? So I am calling for a joint select committee, but for God's sakes, let the House have a select committee where you get 3 or 4 committees together to look at this situation as one unit rather than stovepiping. And where are the survivors? 14 months later, Steve, the survivors, the people who survived the attack in Benghazi, have not been made available to the U.S. Congress for oversight purposes. So I'm going to block every appointment in the United States Senate until the survivors are being made available to the Congress. I'm tired of hearing from people on TV and reading about stuff in books. We need to get to the bottom of this. And to my House colleagues, Darrell Issa has done a great job. To Speaker Boehner, please, for God's sakes, form a joint committee to get away from this blame game and find out exactly what happened and where was Hillary Clinton during all these multiple requests for security. And you could see this attack a long time in the making, according to the people on the ground in Libya. Well, why couldn't you see it in Washington? And who the hell told Susan Rice this story about a protest gone bad? And who told the president there was no evidence of a pre-planned terrorist attack in light of all this information? We're just beginning on Benghazi, and to the families, we're not going to let this go. Congress needs to up its game.
So many questions, easy answers. We just need to get to the bottom of it, and it sounds like you're going to. Senator, thank you very much today for joining us today from Clemson down there in South Carolina. Thank you, sir.